peptide red flags that they don't want you to know about. So, peptides, you probably already heard of them, right? And if you're like, oh, no, I don't know what peptides are. Well, you've probably already heard of it if you are on social media, you've watched TV, you've gone to your physician. Another name for it, this is probably what you've heard of, GLP-1. Ozempic, wegovy, right? These are all peptides. They're man-made, so they're synthetic peptides. They're not naturally occurring peptides, but those are all peptides. If you want to know more about what peptides are and what they do, check out my other video about introduction to peptides. But for those of y'all who already know what peptides are, maybe you're thinking about it, or maybe you're injecting yourself with it, or maybe you've gone to a wellness clinic that's owned by a chiropractor and they have a nurse practitioner introducing some wellness regeneration for your skin, your joints, and they tell you, oh, even though they're not FDA approved, but they've been shown to help with regeneration, longevity, right? I'm about to go through some of the red flags that those wellness clinics and the pharmaceutical companies, the FDAs, they don't want you to know about when it comes to peptides. In simple, peptides are just small chains of amino acids, right? They're signaling molecules. They basically tell your other cells, they tell your cells what to do. So, for example, if I was building a house, these peptides are like the general contractors or the supervisors, I would say. So let's say you have a group of people, you have carpenters, you got mason people, you got electricians, you got plumber, you got all of these workforce, and then you have a general supervisor that tells, oh, you go do this, you go build the bathroom, you go build the kitchen, you go do this, right? They provide the signal, the direction. That's what peptides do. That's what, when they say they are signaling molecules, they say, hey, go repair my cartilage in my knee. Go repair my skin. Go repair my gut, right? Go stop this. The commode is overflowing. Go fix that. Stop the water. Cut off the water valve, right? They're signaling molecules. That's what peptides do. But let's come to what I wanted to talk about in this video, the red flags of peptides. So I've created a dashboard that I will share on our site, Restorative Longevity, that you can just spend your time to go through it. I've got a lot of information on it. I'm just going to hit the main key points. So let's first go over some of the most popular peptides that are out in the market right now. So I'm going to include peptides that are FDA approved. I'm going to include peptides that are not FDA approved, but they are sold by wellness clinics, especially in wellness integrative clinics. You'll see out in the market, there's a lot of practitioners, more specifically chiropractors, but there's some acupuncturists that will hire a nurse practitioner to do these injections. And a lot of times those injections are the ones that are not FDA approved. So we're going to just go over what's out in the market. And again, I'm not here to sway you one way or the other, but what I want to provide, and the purpose of this channel, is to give you all the information so that you can make the educated decision, best decision for yourself. When a clinic is selling something and they only give you the benefits and the pros without the cons of it, right? Obviously, I understand it's business. They want to make money. They want to only tell you the good stuff, but they don't want to tell you the bad stuff. That's no different from a pharmaceutical company, right? Which I will have another training that tells you, everybody thinks that the FDA is there to protect the public and that everything that is all drugs that are FDA approved are safe. Actually, that's not the case. And this information is not out there. Physicians are not going to tell you that many of the medications that are out there are not safe. They may give you a short-term benefit, but they do not know long-term wise if it will kill you or help you, right? But let's stick with these peptides. So currently on the market, let's go over peptides that are currently on the market. So the semaglutides, these are the GLP-1s. These are the ones that most people are familiar with. Their use is type 2 diabetes, chronic weight management, cardiovascular, risk reduction in certain adults with overweight, tirzepatide, type 2 diabetes, chronic weight loss. These are probably some of them less commonly known. BPC 157, it's marketed for tendon repair. ligament recovery, gut healing, ulcer support, joint pain, post-injury recovery. These you may find more in wellness clinics or integrative clinics. Next one is TB 500, marketed for muscle, fascia, tendon. So BPC 157 and TB 500 are more for joints, right? You can see fascia, tendon, healing, flexibility, mobility, inflammation, recovery support. And then you got the CJC 1295. It's for growth, hormone stimulation, body composition, muscle gain, recovery, sleep support. You might think about athletes. Let's see, ipamorelin. I'm sorry, I'm butchering these names. Just letting you, I'm mispronouncing it. I know that. This one's growth hormone pulses, fat loss, sleep recovery, anti-aging. These are the more anti-aging, slow down aging, reverse aging, the fountain of youth. Next one, MK677, marketed for muscle growth, growth hormone, insulin growth factor 1, elevation, appetite increase, recovery, sleep, and hormonal support. Remember, these are all signaling molecules that tell your other cells what to do. So there's probably more, but these are the main categories of peptides that are out in the market. Again, some of them, actually, you'll see right here, it's a little smaller, so I'll read it to you. Semaglutide, the ones that are GLP-1, sorry, are FDA approved, branded. These are the FDA approved. BPC is primarily, these are mostly seen in the wellness clinic or the gray market promotion. These are not mainstream. So these are the ones. So really only the first two in this category, there's more obviously, are FDA approved. All the rest of these are not FDA approved. They are primarily wellness. This next one, primarily performance, recovery market rather than approved medical use. Commonly sold in hormone peptide clinics, often stacked with ipamorelin, which is the one down here, usually paired in peptide clinic offerings. I'm not saying they're not safe, but there's no research to prove that they are safe. Okay, there's no 50-year research. Okay, and this is something you're going to hear. Even the FDA approved, there is not a 50 years research of safety. It is not proven. So even though these peptides are approved by FDA, they are not safe for 50 years. So that means, what I mean by that is, what are the effects? You do these peptides. What are these side effects 20 years down the road? I'm not even talking about 50 years down the road. Let's just say 20 years down the road. You're 60 years old, or maybe you're 30 years old. Well, you take these, you're overweight, and you take these peptides. You're 30 years old, you take these peptides. What's going to happen when you turn 50? Nobody knows. Okay. And yes, they're still FDA approved. So for people to think that just because they're FDA approved that they're safe, that is not the truth. And all this information that I'm giving you is not my opinion. Actually, I listed all the sources down here. When you get access to this dashboard, most of this information, majority of this information is from the FDA and also PubMed. So none of this is my opinion. So again, these wellness ones down here, they're even worse. They're not even FDA approved. At least FDA approved, what does it mean? FDA approved means that they had some type of research done to prove that they were safe for the general public. These other ones, the wellness ones, they have not had extensive amounts to prove that they are safe. Now, even the FDA approved, even if they do just one or two clinical researches and said they're safe, it's only for less than 5 years. None of them have done a 20-year study, none of them for safety. So you don't know 20 years down the road, you suddenly have all these internal problems, autoimmune problems, and you're like, oh, I don't know where it came from. Well, it probably came from these peptides that you took 20 years ago, or other drugs that you took 20 years ago that were FDA approved, but they didn't test for the safety of the effects on your body for 20 years. Okay, so this is a common use. So what are let's go about some called the blunt ranking. So what are the red flags that you have to watch out when you take these GLP-1s? The main red flag, let me make this so it's bigger so you can see. The main red flag for these GLP-1 drugs is gastroparesis. Basically, the drug, this is synthetic. This is not normal. This is not a naturally occurring peptide. This is a man-made chemical like medication injected into you. It slows your stomach emptying. It slows down your stomach. How in I don't know why anybody would think that would be healthy to stop nature. God built our bodies to function perfectly. And now we're injecting ourselves with synthetic substances to stop what God built in us. Why would you think that is healthy? So the main red flags is your stomach emptying forever stays slow, even after you stop the drugs. And then you have intestinal blockage because it slows your digestive system down. If it slows your digestive system down, then that means your body's no longer digesting everything you eat. And it would definitely not absorb everything you eat. These are the things that people don't tell you. Everybody, the physicians who think this is a miracle drug, the pharmaceutical companies, the wellness companies, they're saying, hey, people are losing weight like crazy. They're dropping 100 pounds in 1 week on these GLP-1s, these peptides. So they look good for 1 year, maybe 2 years, and then everything goes downhill after that because your digestion is destroyed. So you're going to gain the weight back. Vomiting. Remember, these are used for diabetes. So I did another video on GLP-1, side effects of GLP-1 drugs, because they've seen that it helps people reverse diabetes temporarily. It helps them improve their cardiovascular, the heart problems, cholesterol problems temporarily. Once they stop these drugs, the diabetes comes back, the heart problems come back, everything comes back. Okay, so it doesn't fix you because you got to take this for the rest of your life. It can escalate. Why it matters. Why do you have to pay attention to these red flags? It can escalate where these GI side effects to retain, it causes your stomach to retain stuff. It causes dehydration, ER visits, aspiration risk, hospitalization. These are the things that they'll tell you, oh no, only a small percentage of people have this. That's another thing I'm going to go over when I talk about how these double-blinded studies, random clinical trials are done. They're manipulated, right? They're manipulated from the beginning. They choose, it's like a jury duty. You watch on TV and they have jury duty. People are selecting, both attorneys are selecting the jury members. Do you know what they're selecting? They're selecting the jury member that's going to help them win, not to get the truth, but to help them win. That is exact same how FD double-blinded randomized clinical trials are conducted. These pharmaceutical companies are the ones who pay for the trials. They are selective, like jury duty. They select the people most likely to prove that their drug will work with no side effects. So they never accept sick people, regular people in the world. They only allow healthy people who can withstand the side effects. I bet you didn't know that. Well, pay attention to the video when I talk about that. So let's come back to the peptides, compounded GLP-1. So these are compounding pharmacies. They're mixing these peptides together. Because there is no regulation on this, the purity, the dosing, the sameness concerns are layered on top of normal GLP-1 risk. So when you add one GLP peptide to another, one already has risk of hospitalization, ER risk, and many of stopping your stomach. You add another one, you're compounding that risk. Okay. They talk about compound benefits, but they don't talk about compound risks. BPC, these are the non-FDA approved. The evidence is weak. There's angiogenesis potential for cancer growth, remodeling concern. These are, remember, they're used for marketing for tendons, ligaments, gut ulcer injury repair. What is the red flag? These healing pathways may support unwanted tissue behavior. What does that mean? Tumors, cancer. It's just like I'm just blatantly saying, hey, someone go fix the toilet. I'm giving the signal, but the person that goes and fix the toilet might create a bigger mess, right? And there's a huge problem. There's a long-term human safety. It's very thin. TB 500, again, same thing the evidence is weak, cell migration concerns, cells going to the wrong place, right? For example, you're building a house. You say, hey, plumber, go fix the toilet. But the electrician went to go fix the toilet. Cell migration concern, very weak human long-term safety. So this video is not talking about the benefits of it. I know many people have benefits from the peptides. This is about all of the side effects, the harm, the danger that people don't talk about. And because there is no safety, there's not a long-term safety test for any of these, even the FDA approved. CJC with the ipamorelin, these are growth hormone signaling. They can cause edema, numbness, joint issues. Glucose disturbance are the main concern pattern, may give you type 2 diabetes. The last one, MK677, insulin resistance. It can cause insulin resistance. Appetite spike, edema, swelling. Edema eventually will affect your heart, cardiovascular, can push the user toward worse glucose control. It can give you diabetes, more water retention, unwanted water gain. So these, again, I'm not going to go through all of this, but these are some of the concerns. I want to go through the damage, the big damage details. This is what I really want to go over. The GLP-1s, what kind of damage? So what, in layman's terms, Jimmy, you're probably saying, hey, what does this mean for me? I don't know any of this terminology. Hopefully I'm explaining it in a simple enough terms so you can understand. The GLP-1 drugs, again, these are all peptides. They're drugs. They delay gastric emptying. They can, what I said before, it slows your stomach down. And this could be permanent. There is a severe gallbladder injury that can cause stones, inflammation, pancreatitis. These GLP-1s can damage your pancreatitis. Did you know if you get acute pancreatitis, that is a life-threatening situation? Of course, they don't tell you these things, right? Because again, remember, they recruit healthy people to do these GLP-1 drugs, right? But you think about it, the people who need these GLP-1 drugs the most are the ones who are not healthy, are the ones who have full-blown diabetes and can't lose weight. They can't exercise because they're obese. Those are the people who need these GLP-1s, but they will never be allowed into the study. Pancreatitis, right? These are the harmful effects that they don't tell you about. Rare necrosis, that's tissue death. Kidney injury is often indirect. So if you have edema problems, that's going to affect your kidneys. I have all the resources. These are Cleveland Clinic, the Journal of American Medical Association. That's where I'm getting this information. I'm not making it. None of this is my opinion. This is from their own Western medicine literature. BPC 157 TB, what's the largest problems? What gets left out? Again, it's the weak long-term human evidence. Their healing rationale relies on angiogenesis, neutralizing signaling, remodeling cell migration. These may support abnormal vessel growth and tumor-friendly biology in the wrong setting. There has not been a 50 years or even 20 years study to prove that these peptides will not cause your pre-existing cancer cells to clump together even more, for tumors to grow bigger. There's no evidence to prove that it won't. There's no evidence that it proved that they will because there's not enough evidence. There's not enough studies. There is not a 20-year-old study of the side effects or of the effects of these peptides, right? Users are often functioning as self-experimenters. So when you go to a wellness clinic that injects these peptides into you, you are the experiment now. So based on, again, these are all from PubMed, we will know 20, you will know, actually, we won't know 20 years later down the road, you will know, right? And then when 20 years down the road, you have cancer and you're telling the doctor, it must be those peptides, but the doctors will not agree with you because right now the research does not show that they will cause cancer. And because pharmaceutical companies are making so much money, there's no way you're going to prove, right? There's no way, they're not going to do research to prove that these peptides medications are causing cancer and killing people. CJC 1295, growth signaling damage pattern, causes fluid retention and edema, again, which will affect your kidneys and your heart eventually. Joint discomfort, tingling or numbness. Worse glucose handling. If you have diabetes, it'll make it worse. If you don't have diabetes, you may get diabetes. Theoretical concerns of malignancy, again, cancer. Growth hormone. What if you cause cancers to grow? Not the right cells you want to grow, right? Metabolic damage pattern. What these peptides are supposed to help you do, they actually cause the same problem. Appetite increase can work directly against the fat loss, water retention edema, which will cause you to gain weight. Again, kidney problems, heart problems, insulin resistance. You will have more diabetes. Your diabetes will get worse, which eventually you may drop the weight fast first, but then your diabetes is going to get worse. So eventually you're going to gain it back, most likely gain double the amount of weight. Possible support of occult tumor growth through growth hormone. Again, they're stimulating growth hormones. How do you know these peptides? Because they're not injecting those peptides directly into those specific tiny cells. They're just injecting it intramuscular, or they're giving it through IV. They're just getting it through your bloodstream. So how do you know those peptides are going to the right cells? How do you know the instruction is to fix the toilet? How do you know your instruction is going to the plumber and not to the electrician? How do you know it's not going to the cement guy, right? The cement guy gets the instruction to go fix the toilet. The cement guy only knows how to pour cement. So then guess what he's going to do? He's going to pour cement in the toilet. And guess what? That destroys the plumbing. That's what's happening. So the idea of having these signaling molecules is a great idea, right? But unfortunately, when you defy Mother Nature, you defy what God built in our body to do to self-heal. When you try to mess with what was built perfectly, you're going to get problems that people don't really think about. So these are the red flags that they're not going to tell you about because they think it's a miracle drug because it gets quick results and they get fast results. These GLP-1s, their people are dropping weight like crazy. They're reversing their diabetes in weeks versus years, right? Here's all the sources. Like I said, I'll put this dashboard onto our Restorative Longevity website, but I wanted to spend some time to go over the red flags of peptides. Now, there are good peptides, right? Peptides are naturally occurring. So hopefully you're asking the question, well, how do I get, what are peptides? Which again, I'll go over in my video about the introduction of peptides, but I just want to share with you general. Peptides are naturally occurring in our body. We have them. We produce them. Our cells produce two sources of naturally occurring peptides. One is our cells produce them, and number two, we get it through our diet. How cool is that? Look out for my other video about how we can get these natural peptides without injecting all of these medications that can kill us 20 years later.